Hi everybody. Today I'm going to show you the preparation for flying pigeon and also flying pigeon. So whenever you're feeling like you're ready to challenge yourself a little bit more in arm balances, this might be a good one for you. I would suggest a good practice before doing this. Don't just go from being cold to doing this particular pose. You need to have already done maybe about 40 minutes of yoga before you go into something like this. But I will show you the warm-ups and the preparations, and then we'll get into it. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so let's just start seated upright for a moment, and we'll prepare the wrists, bringing the hands together, interlace the fingers, and roll the wrists around. Now, if you've had already some practice, chances are your wrists are already fairly warmed up, but still, I like to do extra preparation because they get injured very easily, especially because we're pretty stagnant throughout the day, and then all of a sudden we're expecting our wrists to support our whole body weight. So rolling the wrists in circles and in both directions, and then we'll pull all the fingers back on one hand, including the thumb. And then the other hand, that's thunder. Okay, and then shake it out. So first what we need to do is open the hips so that we can actually move into the pose. We'll start by pulling the right leg up in front of us and pulling it toward the chest, and maybe even, if possible, wrapping the arms around it. If that doesn't work, just take hold with the hands. You want the foot up about shoulder height and the knee about the opposite shoulder, so it's crossing your chest here. And you can rock a little bit from side to side. They call this cradle the baby. And this really does help loosen up the hips. Flying pigeon requires your hips to be open enough to lean your shin on your upper arms and lean forward. So you'll see what I mean. And then we'll pull this in nice and tight. Take a deep breath. Now you can do this for longer in the future if you feel it's necessary. And then we'll switch the legs. Might find one hip tighter than the other. That's kind of, I wouldn't say it's normal, it's common. And there's lots of reasons for that. Not to worry, just work a little bit more on the one that's tighter if it's needed and necessary. Pull that leg in nice and close, take a deep breath. Okay, now alternatively you can do pigeon pose for your next part of your warm-up. If you didn't want to do the first one, you could just go right into pigeon. So bringing the right knee forward toward the right wrist and the foot toward the left wrist, coming up like this, and then you can lean forward. We'll be here for about 5 or so breaths, although you can always do this for longer if you want to. And I like to always challenge the back hip here a little bit too, to open up a bit more. So maybe bending the back knee, grabbing the foot just for a few breaths. All right, release, and then we'll do the other leg. You can separate the two sides with a downward dog for a couple of breaths. And then bring the left knee forward. start upright for a couple of breaths. And then you can come down onto the forearms, bringing more weight into the front leg, loosening up the outer edge of the left hip. And then we'll slowly come on up. And again, maybe bending the back leg and reaching for the foot just so we get some of that right hip flexor to release. Take a few deep breaths. And then we'll release. One more downward dog. Take a few deep breaths here. Pressing into all the fingers. Letting the heels drop and the tailbone rise. Knees can be straight or bent. Just changes the dynamic in the pose. Okay, so let's walk the feet towards the hands. Hanging here for a couple of breaths and standing forward bend. And then we'll bend the knees and slowly roll up to stand. So this is what I usually do to prepare for this pose. I think you will also need to as well. Now, for the next stage of coming in, usually I take this from tree pose with the leg crossed over. So I'm going to step back a little bit so you see a little bit more of what I'm doing. So you're going to pick up your left foot, place it in front of your right thigh. Bring the arms together and up over the head, coming down forward all the way to hands to the floor, and then bend your standing knee. Now, from this position, placing the hands on the floor, shoulder width apart, you're going to snuggle in your left leg behind your upper arms. And it's going to feel uncomfortable if it's in the wrong place. So try to figure out by shifting things around a bit where it feels best. And then you're going to start to lean in toward your hands. You don't need to lift your back leg yet. So you're just going to take some time leaning in like you would for crow or any other type of arm balance. So you're leaning in, you're taking your time, and you're coming back out. At some point, you're going to feel like you're able to support yourself a little bit better, and you will start to lift your back leg up. So my foot is hooked around the upper right arm. My knee is pressing, well, my shin is pressing into the upper left arm. And then I'm going to lean into my hands and then slowly lift the back leg up. And then bring it down. Of course, this does take a little bit of time and practice, so don't get discouraged. Just keep moving a little bit toward it each time you have a yoga practice, which 2 to 3 times a week is enough to get some development. But don't let it go too long, because then you lose the strength you've gained. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can find me at yogaa 3 A's and an H.com, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And also look out for my courses online and the yoga teacher training coming up in the fall, which is also online. So I hope you have some success in this pose, and I look forward to doing the next video for you. Namaste.